Massive DOJ release. 3 million pages of Epstein files unleashed, shocking ties and secrets exposed. Listen up, everyone, this is huge, and it's time we face it head-on. On January 30, 2026, the United States Department of Justice finally pulled back the curtain on one of the darkest chapters in modern history by releasing a staggering 3 million pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein's infamous sex trafficking scandal. That's not a typo, 3 million pages, plus thousands of videos and images that have been locked away for years. This isn't just some minor update. It's a full-blown avalanche of information that's forcing us all to confront how power, money, and influence have protected predators for far too long. I'm talking about evidence, tips, interviews, and connections that tie some of the world's most powerful people to Epstein's web of abuse. And folks, if you're wondering why this matters right now, it's because these files are shining a brutal light on ongoing questions about accountability, justice for victims, and whether our leaders are truly fit to serve. Let's break it all down, step by step, so you can grasp the full weight of what's happening here. No sugarcoating, just the straight facts delivered with the urgency this deserves. First off, who is Jeffrey Epstein, and why does his story still haunt us? Epstein was a billionaire financier who built his fortune through shady deals and close ties to Wall Street elites. But behind the glamour, he was running a horrific operation that exploited young girls, many of them underage, recruiting them into a life of sexual abuse and trafficking. From the 1990s through the 2000s, Epstein used his private island in the U.S., Virgin Islands, nicknamed Little St. James or worse, Pedophile Island by some, along with luxurious homes in New York, Palm Beach, and New Mexico, as hubs for this nightmare. He lured vulnerable teens with promises of modeling gigs, education, or cash, only to coerce them into encounters with himself and his powerful friends. Epstein wasn't alone. His longtime partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, helped recruit and groom these girls. She was convicted in 2021 on charges including sex trafficking of minors and is now serving a 20-year sentence. Epstein himself was arrested in 2019 on federal charges, but died in his jail cell that August, officially ruled a suicide, though conspiracy theories swirl about whether it was really that or something more sinister to silence him. Now, how did we get to this massive document dump? It all stems from years of legal battles and public pressure. Epstein's first brush with the law came in 2008 when he cut a sweetheart plea deal in Florida, serving just 13 months in a cushy work-release setup despite facing serious accusations. That deal, orchestrated by then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, who later became Trump's labor secretary, shielded Epstein from federal charges and even granted immunity to his co-conspirators. Victims fought back through civil lawsuits, like the one filed by Virginia Giuffre against Maxwell and others, which led to court-ordered unsealing of documents starting in 2019. But the real push for transparency came from Congress. In 2023, lawmakers passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a bipartisan bill mandating the DOJ to compile and release all federal records on Epstein, no more hiding behind redactions or delays. President Trump signed it into law during his second term, but his administration slow-walked the process, missing deadlines and facing lawsuits from victims' groups and media outlets. Finally, under court order, the DOJ complied on January 30, 2026, uploading the trove to a public portal. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche announced it in a press conference, emphasizing that while some info might include unverified tips, the release fulfills the law's intent to let sunlight disinfect the shadows. What's actually in these 3 million pages? Buckle up, because it's a lot and it's disturbing. The bulk comes from FBI investigations, including over a decade of tips from a national hotline set up after Epstein's 2019 arrest. Thousands of callers reported alleged sightings, assaults, and connections, many involving high-profile names. There are interview transcripts with victims detailing how Epstein and Maxwell operated. Girls as young as 14 were flown on Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express, to parties where they were pressured into sexual acts. Documents include flight logs showing who traveled with him, names like former President Bill Clinton, who flew 26 times but denies any wrongdoing, Britain's Prince Andrew, who settled a lawsuit with Jeffrey for millions. Tech moguls Bill Gates and Elon Musk both say their meetings were purely professional, and countless others from Hollywood, academia, and finance. Emails show Epstein boasting about his access, like one where he brags about introducing people to royalty and presidents. There are also financial records tracing how Epstein laundered money through offshore accounts to pay off victims or buy silence. Videos and images. Some are surveillance from Epstein's properties, capturing gatherings. Others are evidence photos from raids. The DOJ warns that much is graphic and sensitive, with redactions to protect minors' identities. But here's where it gets even more intense, and why this release is sparking outrage across the board. Donald Trump, our current president, is mentioned over 1,000 times in these files. Some are benign, like news articles quoting his past comments on Epstein. Remember, Trump and Epstein were social pals in the 90s, partying together in New York and Florida. Trump once said in a 2002 interview that Epstein was a terrific guy who liked women on the younger side. Their friendship ended around 2004 when Epstein was banned from Trump's Mar-a-Lago club after reportedly harassing a member's teenage daughter. But the files go darker. Unverified FBI tips allege Trump attended Epstein events where minors were present, including claims of assault from the 90s. One standout is from a woman who filed, and later dropped, a 2016 lawsuit claiming Trump raped her at 13 during an Epstein party in 1994. She cited death threats as her reason for withdrawing. Other tips describe orgies and coercion, with diagrams mapping Epstein's network showing Trump as a key node. Importantly, none of these have led to charges against Trump. The FBI dismissed many as lacking evidence or being politically motivated, especially around election times. The White House calls it a smear campaign, pointing out that Trump helped prosecutors in 2009 by providing info on Epstein. Still, with him back in power after the 2024 win, these revelations are fueling calls for accountability. How can someone so entangled still lead? It's a fair question that demands answers. Let's zoom out and explain the broader impact so you see why this isn't just tabloid fodder. Epstein's scandal exposes systemic failures, how law enforcement gave him slaps on the wrist, how wealth buys influence, and how victims are often dismissed. Take Prince Andrew. The files detail Jeffrey's accusations of being trafficked to him 3 times, leading to his 2022 settlement and stripping of royal titles. Clinton's mentions include logs of trips to Africa for charity work, but no abuse claims against him. Gates met Epstein multiple times post-conviction, regretting it later as Epstein pitched shady investments. Musk is noted in emails about space ventures, denying deeper ties. Other names: Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's lawyer, accused but cleared in settlements; Les Wexner, Victoria's Secret founder who gave Epstein power of attorney; and even scientists like Marvin Minsky. Not everyone named is guilty, many were just acquaintances, but the sheer volume shows Epstein's reach. The release includes post-2008 communications, proving he rebuilt his network after his plea deal, rubbing elbows with elites until his 2019 downfall. Why now in 2026, and what does it mean for us ordinary folks? Timing matters. This drop comes amid Trump's second term, where policies like intensified ICE operations are hitting immigrant communities hard, echoing the division of his first stint. Critics argue that if leaders ignore these files' red flags, they're complicit in a culture that protects the powerful. Victims' advocates, like the Epstein Victims Compensation Fund, which paid out over $150 million, say this transparency is a win, empowering survivors to seek justice. But challenges remain. Many documents are redacted for national security or privacy, prompting demands from Congress for unredacted versions. House Democrats are pushing hearings, while Republicans defend the process as complete. Legally, statutes of limitations have expired for many claims, but civil suits could surge. Economically, it hits reputation's stocks dipped for companies linked to named individuals. Socially, it's reigniting Me Too conversations, reminding us that abuse thrives in silence. Digging deeper into the mechanics of the release. The DOJ compiled this from multiple agencies: FBI, IRS, Secret Service, plus court filings from Jeffer's case and others. The 3 million pages break down to about 1.5 million from investigations, 800,000 from financial probes, and the rest from tips and media. Videos number in the thousands, some body cam footage from 2019 raids showing Epstein's safe with cash, diamonds, and passports. Images include property photos revealing hidden cameras in bedrooms. Accessing it, it's on justice.gov/Epstein files, but the site's crashed multiple times from traffic. Journalists are poring over it, uncovering gems like an Epstein email to a banker joking about young models. Fairness note: the DOJ stresses that inclusion doesn't equal guilt. Many tips were anonymous or debunked. For instance, a 2020 FBI report labels some anti-Trump claims as election interference attempts. We must approach this with caution, separating facts from fiction to avoid witch hunts. Yet boldness requires calling out the elephant in the room. How is Trump still president amid this? The 25th Amendment exists to remove unfit leaders. It needs the VP and cabinet to declare incapacity, then Congress to confirm. With these files out, why no action, loyalty, fear? It's infuriating. During Epstein's era, Trump was a real estate tycoon hosting beauty pageants where teens mingled with VIPs. Files mention Miss Teen USA contestants feeling uncomfortable around him, though no direct Epstein link there. His denial is firm. "I was not a fan of his," he said post-2019. But associations linger. Other presidents, Clinton's team says he cut ties in 2002. No current office holders beyond Trump are heavily implicated, but the ripple effects touch both parties. This exposure isn't the end, it's a beginning. Independent probes could follow, like a special counsel. Victims like Jeffer, now an advocate, call it vindication. For society, it's a lesson. Demand transparency always. If power corrupts, sunlight heals. We've seen delays before the 2024 partial release was just 5,000 pages, heavily censored. This full dump, game changer. It details Epstein's 2008 deal fallout, where prosecutors ignored 40 victims. It shows his post-release life, advising billionaires while on probation. Even his death. Files include autopsy debates fueling doubts. In wrapping this up, though there's so much more we could unpack, remember, this is about justice delayed but not denied. The system let Epstein operate for decades. Now, with 3 million pages bare, we can't look away. Leaders must answer or step aside. Victims deserve peace, and we deserve truth. Trump's Epstein connections laid bare in shocking new document release. How can he still hold the reins of power? Folks, let's dive right into this mess that's shaking the foundations of our democracy. Yesterday, on January 30, 2026, the U.S. Department of Justice dropped a bombshell: over 3 million pages of documents, plus thousands of videos and images, all tied to the infamous Jeffrey Epstein case. This isn't just some dusty old paperwork. It's a massive reveal that puts President Donald Trump front and center, mentioned more than 1,000 times. And while some of those mentions are harmless, like news clips or casual references, others paint a deeply troubling picture of unverified but serious allegations of sexual misconduct, including claims involving underage girls. We're talking about FBI-compiled lists of tips from their national hotline, where people reported graphic stories of assault and abuse linked to Trump and Epstein's circle. One Epstein victim even described how Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's convicted accomplice, presented her to Trump at a party. These aren't proven in court, but they're out there now, demanding answers. Let me break this down for you step by step so you can see the full picture. Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy financier who ran a horrifying sex trafficking operation, preying on young girls and using his connections to the rich and powerful to shield himself. He died in jail in 2019, officially ruled a suicide, but questions linger. His partner in crime, Maxwell, is serving time for her role. For years, bits and pieces of Epstein's files have trickled out, but this latest dump is the biggest yet mandated by a law that Trump himself signed, though his administration dragged its feet on the release, missing deadlines and facing criticism for heavy redactions in earlier batches. Why the delay? That's a question we all need to ask. Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act to force everything into the light, ensuring the American people know what the government knew about Epstein's web of influence. Now, Trump's ties to Epstein go way back. They were buddies in the 1990s and early 2000s, rubbing shoulders at parties in Palm Beach and New York. Trump once called Epstein a terrific guy who liked beautiful women on the younger side. Their friendship reportedly soured around 2004 when Epstein got banned from Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort after allegedly hitting on a member's underage daughter. But the new documents dig deeper. They include FBI notes from a woman who sued Trump, claiming he raped her at 13 during an Epstein-hosted event in 1994. That lawsuit was dropped in 2016 amid threats, but the details are resurfacing. There are also summaries of hotline tips alleging organized sex parties, coercion of minors, and assaults spanning decades, some from the 90s when Trump was a real estate mogul, others tied to his 2016 campaign. The files even have diagrams mapping Epstein's inner circle, showing how these connections intertwined. Here's where it gets infuriating. Despite all this, Trump is back in the White House after winning the 2024 election. How? Well, let's talk about the system that let this happen. Epstein's operation thrived because powerful people looked the other way or actively protected him. Trump has always denied any wrongdoing, saying he cut ties with Epstein long before the crimes came to light and had no knowledge of the abuse. The White House points to a DOJ statement warning that some documents might include fake claims, especially those submitted around elections to smear him. Fair enough, not every tip is gold, and many were dismissed as unsubstantiated by investigators. No charges have ever been filed against Trump in connection to Epstein, but transparency is key here. These files aren't just gossip, they're from official probes, and they raise red flags that deserve scrutiny, not dismissal. Think about it, how does a man with these shadows hanging over him get to wield the power of the presidency again? During his first term, we saw policies that divided families, like ramping up ICE raids that tore apart immigrant communities as if human lives were pawns. And now, in 2026, with these revelations exploding, he's still calling the shots. Something's rotten in our leadership. The 25th Amendment exists for moments like this. It allows the vice president and cabinet to declare a president unfit and remove him temporarily. Why aren't they stepping up? We've got officials in Congress and the administration who seem more loyal to party lines than to justice. If they're ignoring these allegations, turning a blind eye to potential complicity in shielding predators, they're part of the problem. They should resign, plain and simple, and let people with integrity take over. We don't need to wait for midterms or another election cycle to drag on. The 25th Amendment is a tool in our Constitution to protect us from leaders who abuse power or face credible threats to their fitness. Invoking it wouldn't be easy. It requires a majority of the cabinet and the VP to agree, then Congress to ratify if contested. But history shows it's been discussed before, like during Trump's first term amid chaos. With these Epstein files out, the pressure should be on. Why respect a system that props up someone entangled in such scandals? Respect is earned, not demanded, and right now, it's in short supply. Let me explain the bigger implications so you understand why this matters to everyday folks like you and me. Epstein's network wasn't just about one man's crimes. It exposed how wealth and influence corrupt justice. Victims, brave women who came forward, described being recruited as teens, flown to private islands, and forced into encounters with high-profile men. The files mention other big names like Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates, but Trump's mentions dominate this release. Clinton flew on Epstein's plane multiple times but denies knowing about the abuse. Andrew settled a lawsuit with a victim. These aren't accusations of guilt for everyone named, but they show how Epstein used connections to evade accountability for years. In Trump's case, the unverified claims are explosive. Allegations of rape, trafficking involvement, and parties where minors were present. One tip described Trump at an orgy event. Again, these are from FBI records, not proven facts, but they were serious enough to document. The Dodge's Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, announced the release, saying it fulfills the law's requirements. But critics, including House Democrats, want unredacted versions shared with Congress for oversight. Why the redactions? What else is hidden? This isn't about politics, it's about protecting our kids, holding leaders accountable, and ensuring no one is above the law. If Trump truly had nothing to do with Epstein's crimes, why resist the full release? His administration fought delays, but the law he signed forced their hand. Now, with him in power, we're seeing ICE actions ramp up again, targeting vulnerable communities while these shadows loom. It's like nothing's changed. Abuse of power continues, and those enabling it are complicit. If cabinet members or lawmakers know about these files and do nothing, they should pack up and go. We deserve better. We've got to demand investigations, independent ones, not whitewashes. The FBI already probed many tips and found some not credible, but with millions of pages now public, journalists and watchdogs can dig in. This release includes emails between Epstein and influential people, even after his convictions, showing friendships persisted. For Trump, it's a reminder of past associations that won't fade. He banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago, but was that enough? Victims say no. In the end, this is a wake-up call. How did we get here, with a president linked to such a scandal still abusing power? The system failed victims before. It can't fail again. Push for the 25th if needed. Grow some spine, leaders, and act. We're not respecting monsters. We're fighting for truth and justice. This monster shouldn't hold office, and those letting him should step aside. If you also support democracy and freedom, feel free to join me in this fight. Click follow, click subscribe, and join me. Divided we fall, and together we can knock down mountains. Through unity is the only way we can make a change. I speak the truth. I share a bit of history. I share what is happening. I try to keep everyone updated with what is going on. I used to write for Newsbreak, but then I went on my own so that I can speak the truth and warn people freely without rules. Because you deserve the truth. I do not consider myself independent news. I am just a truth speaker with a mix of everything. I also share about God. I appreciate your time. I do consider myself independent in the fact that no one controls my narrative. I will not say what everyone else wants to hear. That is not why I created this movement. It is either the truth or nothing. Thank you. Stay safe. God bless. I love you all. Crowning Thoughts. True Speaker. Copyright 2025 by Santiago D.C. Maria. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution.